Hello, Tar Heel Nation. We are live with another UNC Hoops Talk podcast, the July edition for the off season. I'm really excited. I got Ross Martin here, and we're talking all things recruiting this week or this month. Get us ready for not only the basketball season, but we're going to hit a little bit on football as well for the Tar Heel football fans out there. Before we get started, I just want to throw it out there that if you are watching this live, we'd love to have you ask any questions about mostly basketball recruiting questions, but even if you have some football recruiting questions, throw them up there. You can ask them in the YouTube comment section. Ask them on Twitter using the hashtag UNCHoopsTalk. Ask them using the Q&A app here on Google+, in the events page on Google+. Pretty much anywhere I'm set up here, I'll catch your question, and then we'll hopefully get to all of them. Hopefully I don't miss anybody. But so thankful that Ross is here to join me. Ross, why don't you introduce yourself? Give your credentials, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Dan. Ross Martin. I write for 24/7 Sports, and I run the UNC site for them. So that's CarolinaBlue.com. And yeah, we do football and basketball recruiting and football and basketball team stuff. So pretty excited to kind of get through the summer here and get into football season, and then next thing you know, we'll be into basketball season, so it'll be finally good to have some actual games to talk about. You can follow me on Twitter at boss_Martin247, and that's the best way to reach me, and follow some of the articles I post on CarolinaBlue.com. We do a lot of free stuff, and our discussion boards are free, and it's a great opportunity to talk Carolina basketball and football with fellow UNC fans and get a lot of good news on there, as well as from my Twitter account.
Absolutely, and I'll make sure I put a link to Ross's Twitter in the description of the YouTube for anybody that's not watching live, and any articles that you hit on, Ross. We'll make sure that you get them over to me. We'll get them into the description so that people can check them out even easier than trying to look them up. For anybody that's not watching live, so you're exclusively UNC, Carolina sports, right?
Yeah, I got full control of the website now, and it's just me on there writing, and it's pretty exciting. And yeah, I'm all UNC all day, 24/7. So
all right,
it's a really good opportunity for me, and I'm excited to kind of run the website now for 24/7 Sports.
Awesome, and it's a great site. I'm not paying to read the stuff yet, but I have definitely checked out the website a lot more than I have. I mean, even a few months ago. I've enjoyed the article, so I would recommend it. I'm not just saying that because you're here. I would say that anyway.
I mean, a lot of these sites you have to pay to see most of the articles, but our site, we keep a lot of stuff free, and all our commits, all our offers, our target pages, like for each basketball, football classes, are all free. We have a crystal ball function where we predict where experts from around the nation predict where certain recruits are going to commit. And then I try to make most of the team articles free. And so you can really read, I'd say, 75% of the stuff on there, and then you can go on the discussion boards and check everything out there as well for free. So it's a really good site and a good opportunity to kind of get some inside info without having to pay. But, of course, we'd love you to become a member as well.
Absolutely. Promote it. Shameless plugs. We like it. All right, so let's jump in. Let's start with football. If there are any football aficionados out there watching, get your questions in. But, Ross, just hit on any impact freshmen that we have coming into the Tar Heels team this year, position and what they can bring and add to the team.
Yeah, so the big names you want to look out for this year is Elijah Hood, who is a running back out of Charlotte. He's about 6 feet tall, 210 pounds, just a really athletic, strong, physical running back. He committed to Notre Dame and then switched his commit to Carolina kind of late in the process. And he's going to get probably the number 2 running back for North Carolina and should be a big impact player. I saw him at one of the summer camps and then at the Freak Show, and he's jacked. He's huge. He can squat like 550 plus. He's going to be a power back kind of to go next to TJ Logan, and he should be one of the main contributors out of this freshman class. You also have Bentley Spain, who's an offensive lineman out of Charlotte as well. And he could start. He's had some injury issues, and our offensive line is pretty young. But he could start at the left tackle or right tackle position. It's still unknown right now, and they're not sure who's going to take all those spots. Beyond that, there's a couple of good guys on defense, the defensive secondary. You have MJ Stewart and Alan Artis. They're both early enrollees and could see some time. Other than that, Austin Prohl, who you probably recognize his last name. His dad was a big Panthers receiver, and I think coaches the wide receivers at the Panthers. He could see some time at wide receiver and special teams, but those are the main guys that are going to have impact roles. Of course, you have a couple guys here and there that might get some time in, but I would look out for Elijah Hood and Bentley Spain, especially.
All right. And this is, year 3 of Fedora, right? So it's, his guys are starting to become, upperclassmen, right? Juniors, redshirt sophomores, that kind of stuff.
So, yeah, this is his 3rd recruiting class, and this will be his 3rd year coaching. So he's getting his guys in the system, and, he's getting the recruits he wants. So, I mean, this was a big recruiting class for him in 2014, and looking towards 2015, it's even a more important one. I think there's going to be a lot of talent in that class as well. So you're finally seeing more depth, offensive line, defensive line, places where they really need more depth, and you're finally seeing just more people, more talent, and more speed on the field compared to what he had when he came in to Chapel Hill.
So let's go into that 4th recruiting class of Fedora. We know that a lot of this recruiting stuff goes even 2 and 3 years out, but do we have any huge 4 or 5-star guys or that will be coming in next year, or what are the big names that we're after for next year as well?
Yeah, so we have 16. By we, I mean UNC. We have 16 guys right now, and we have a lot of 3-star, 4-star guys. The big names I would say that are committed right now is Juval Millette. He's a wide receiver out of Randleman, North Carolina. Big, 6'4", about 185 wide receiver. Saw him at the Freak Show, and he's physically imposing. He can gain even more weight. He's big, he's long, he's fast, and he's the stud wide receiver in the class. We have 2 quarterbacks committed. Anthony Ratliff is one of them out of Charlotte, and he's going to be the guy. He was recruited by Fedora for Fedora's system. And then we have 5 offensive linemen already committed. So our offensive line is pretty much complete. Big names there. Emmanuel McGirt out of Durham, Tommy Hatton, who was at the opening, which is Nike's elite recruiting camp up in Oregon. Tommy Hatton's a big center, really aggressive, really competitive guy, and he did really well going against some of the top competition there. So offensive line recruitment's gone really well with Coach Kaplovic there. And then we're waiting on some couple guys to commit. Jalen Dalton and Shai Tuttle are both 4- and 5-star defensive linemen, both in-state guys. And the hope for UNC fans is that Dalton and Tuttle will become Tar Heels at some point. Kind of just waiting on when they will decide, and I guess they're weighing their options as well. So those are 2 big names, Jalen Dalton and Shai Tuttle, huge defensive line commits that are kind of all the fans are kind of waiting for to commit. And so, yeah, doing pretty well so far in recruiting. I think a lot of people have us around the 13 to 11 to 13 range when it comes to team rankings, which is good when you compare it to all the SEC schools and ACC schools and Big Ten schools out there. So it's going well, pretty good so far, and we're just looking to get a couple more guys in.
Yeah, I think he's a heck of a recruiter. But this is as you were talking there, this is exactly the reason that you need to follow Carolina Blue and maybe even subscribe. To follow all those names and keep track of all those names. Like, I'm not as into UNC football as I am basketball by any stretch of the means, and obviously there's a lot more recruits in football than basketball. But to keep them all straight and who plays where and who's what year and stuff, I mean, that's crazy. You gotta pay somebody to keep track of all that for you.
Yeah, it's just nuts because you're looking ahead. Like the 2015 class is almost done, so now we're looking forward to 2016 guys, rising juniors, even 2017 guys, rising juniors and rising sophomores. So those guys are young, and there's hundreds of offers that go out. It's it's kind of a headache trying to keep track of who's going after who and stuff. But it's fun, and fans love it, and it's kind of you're waiting on potential. You're kind of you're making your bet on the potential these guys will turn out and be good, productive players.
Well, hey, someone could pay me to do that. I'd take that job as well. But all right, we're going to try something new here. Bring up some of the questions. I only see a couple referring to football, but we're going to see on Twitter at MWC37Alex. I think this is more of a statement, but UNC football athleticism speed off the charts this year. And that's where, like you were talking about, the depth will come into play a little bit, and getting Fedora's guys, into the upperclassmen and getting that depth will hopefully come into play. They can tire down those other teams, right? That's kind of the system that he's building, correct?
Yeah, I mean, it's all about speed, and they run so many plays so quickly that they have so many players coming in. Wide receivers have to be fast. The running backs, we have 4 or 5 that can go and start. And it's all about pace. And, yeah, getting that depth in, getting fast players who fit the system is what Fedora wants. And he's getting those with his, the last couple of recruiting classes. So we'll see the impact of that this year and next year.
Well, talking about wide receivers and speed, Alex, again, says, is Ryan Switzer the most electric UNC football player in some time?
Yeah, I mean, he's up there. Just what he did last year with 5 punt returns, that's unbelievable. And I talked to him a lot this spring, and he's going to be a bigger role in the offense this year. So it'll be real exciting. I think he'll take the slot position on the offense. So he'll get the ball more and more this year. And so, you could see a lot more touchdowns, a lot more yards this year. Dude's very confident in his abilities, and it's going to be fun to watch, especially, another year in the program, sophomore season. Sky's the limit.
So for recent fans, remember back Gio Bernard?
Yeah.
Where do you compare those two, Switzer and Bernard? Who just more electric in that sense, since that was the question?
I mean, if you think electric, I go with Switzer. The guy is just in the open field. He's just so fast. When you give him a little bit of room on punt returns, he can make plays. Bernard was just, I mean, he was so quick, and he'd get to the outside or go up the middle as a running back. That was exciting to watch as well. He had that just huge season in 2012. Kind of came out of nowhere that, made him a NFL draft pick. But I'd say Bernard was more productive, but Switzer, probably more electric, more exciting to watch.
All right, so and we're probably went over the time I even allotted for football there, but it's just fascinating there. Let's jump into the basketball stuff. Maybe the stuff. Well, I know the stuff that I know a little bit more. Precursor out there. I follow recruiting when guys start to get serious and their name gets brought up a lot, but I'm definitely not in depth as you. Probably a little bit more than the average fan. But let's first start with, like we did with football, the incoming freshmen and even returning players that have just made leaps, maybe that you've seen. Of course, like Kennedy Meeks. Anytime his name comes up, you talk about weight, stuff like that. But returning guys, incoming freshmen, what are the impacts that you expect to happen, and what do you expect from those guys?
Yeah, so the guys that are returning, I have to go with Kennedy Meeks, Bryce Johnson, probably 2 guys that you expect to have the biggest jump in ability and production. I mean, Meeks has lost tons of weight. He's throwing down windmill dunks in scrimmages. And it's going to be really important because beyond Meeks and Johnson, the big men, there's not much talent behind them. So those 2 guys are really important. We lost McAdoo, so you're going to have to rely on Meeks and Johnson. I think Tokido is going to be better. He had a good year as a sophomore. He's going to be a lot better, though. Probably better shooter, more offensive production. I put an article up on him on Friday, so it's a pretty good look at what we expect out of him. You're going to see the same out of Page. He's going to be better as well. What you're kind of looking at is growth from Isaiah Hicks and Nate Britt. Nate Britt was a serviceable point guard last year. I didn't think Hicks did much at all, so it's yet to be seen what he can bring. But yeah, that's what we're looking at from the guys that are returning. And then going into the recruiting class that's come on the campus there, I think they're in summer session right now. So you have Joel Berry, or I guess Joel Berry. I think we call Joel James, Joel, and then Joel Berry. Whatever.
Yeah, you won't be the only one to make that mistake this year.
Yeah, so Joel Berry, Justin Jackson, and then Theo Pinson out of High Point. And so Joel Berry is a point guard, fast guy, should serve as a backup to Marcus Page. You have Justin Jackson, who's a 6'8" small forward, kind of like Tayshaun Prince, really long, really lean, very skinny, but he can score. He got MVP of the McDonald's All-American game. He can shoot it, really good mid-range game, probably pretty good in transition, and he should play a lot at the small forward position either backing up Tokido or maybe even getting some time at the shooting guard position. And then Theo Pinson's more your athletic, fast, jump out of the gym guy, kind of like Marcus Ginyard, but with more offensive ability. He's going to be a shooting guard, a wing, kind of like Ginyard, Danny Green, that type of player that can do everything. And yeah, it's going to be really great to have 3 more people on the perimeter to kind of help out Page, and all 3 of those guys can score. Barry is very good. I don't think you'll see him as much next year because of Britt and Page, but he's going to be a starting UNC point guard before he leaves Chapel Hill.
Well, I was just going to ask you. You mentioned Britt being serviceable last year, not a huge impact offensively, and if anybody follows UNC through the offseason, have heard that he's switched his shooting to his right hand from his left hand. Do you expect Britt to stay ahead of Barry in the rotation?
Yeah, so this is where it gets pretty interesting because this is like a debate that's going to go on until Roy releases a starting lineup. Because you could have Page play the 2, you could have Page play the shooting guard position and have Britt start, or have Barry start. I see Page starting at point guard, and then having Justin Jackson or Theo Pinson start at the 2, and I think Tokido starts at the 3. But I mean, you never know. You could see Page at the 2, and then have Britt and Barry kind of rotate at the point guard position. So, it's one of those debates that fans will have for a while, and I couldn't tell you what I think would be best. I don't know. I like Page at the 1, and then bringing in one of the freshmen at the 2, and have Tokido at the 3. I think that gives you the most offense. And then then move Page to the shooting guard position and have Barry or Nate Britt take over the point guard position.
Yeah, no, and I think last year even kind of the turning point too was when obviously Leslie came back, but when Page went to being the starting point guard again and playing most of his minutes at point guard, even though he almost played like a shooting guard offensively, where he was taking most of the shots and stuff. But I think that was a turning point. Justin Jackson is another interesting one for me. Him and Theo. Theo would be known as more of the defensive player, right? I think I've even been on record saying he's kind of like a Jackie Manuel with a jump shot, or more of an offensive game.
Yeah, I think Theo can score as well, and he's athletic. He's quick. He's able to guard the other team's better offensive players. So with Pinson and Tokido, you have 2 great long. They're both 6'5" perimeter players, and I think Jackson's going to be just a scorer. I think he's long enough and fast enough where he can score inside, score in the mid-range game, and I think he can develop a 3-point shot as well. He was MVP of the McDonald's All-America game. Like I said, he can just put in buckets, and we need that scoring. And it's exciting to think of Page playing alongside 2 or 3 more guys who can score and just give us more opportunities around the perimeter. It would have been nice to have Harrison last year for that.
Right.
But,
right. Yeah, we know how Roy likes the defensive players. So if you were saying for the starting lineup between Justin Jackson and Theo Pinson, the 2. My guess would be Roy would go with Pinson, but obviously it depends how those guys get acclimated into the system and all that stuff. Like I said, Justin Jackson is an interesting one. I mean, he's 6'7", right?
Yeah, 6'7", 6'8", yeah.
Yeah, and I remember I watched he played like at a homeschool team in high school, but I watched kind of like I don't know if it was the state championship or some championship that he was playing, and they're playing zone, kind of like what Bryce did in high school for a lanky guy like that, but he's almost looking like a center. So I was watching, like, is he going to play the 4? He can't be, he's too thin, like all those guys we get recently, playing the 4. So all this talk about him playing, 2 and 3, that's crazy for a 6'7" guy, shoots like that, to be put into a position like that. That'd be interesting to see.
Yeah, he's kind of shaped like Bryce Johnson, just like a little bit shorter, but he definitely has the handles and the outside game to play the 2 or 3.
So we can just say a poor man's Kevin Durant, right?
Yeah, exactly.
We can hope anyway.
Yeah.
All right, so let's transition now into the recruiting. Those are the guys we got coming in for this season. Now looking way ahead of ourselves to the 2015 guys. Like I said, I follow it to a point. But I'm not as in depth, which is why you're here, of course. And I know some of those names. I know Ingram is out of where Reggie Bullock is, I believe. I've heard the Zimmerman name, the PJ Dozier, I think it is. I mean, I've heard some of those big names. We don't have any commits yet. What do you? I mean, who are our top guys? What are the top needs that we need, and who do you kind of see us getting?
Yeah, so I've been talking to some people, and what UNC is going after is they want the best big man they can get and the best 2 or 3 guard they can get, and they're not going to take someone just to take someone. They're going after the 2 or 3 best players they can get, and then going to hold out for the 2016 class. So in 2015, the offers that are out that are, there's mutual interest between the two parties. You have PJ Dozier out of South Carolina. He's a 2 guard, 6'5", around that time, scorer, good player. Not that elite 5-star, but a good 4-star player who did really well this past weekend on some of the AAU tournaments. You have Brandon Ingram out of Kinston. That's where Reggie Bullock went, and and he's been high on UNC for a while, and he went to all the UNC games, all those unofficial visits, and then Duke offered, and then a bunch of other schools offered. Kentucky offered this weekend. So his interest in North Carolina, I think, has dwindled a little bit. So you have those are the 2 kind of guards they're going after. Ingram's a big guard, 6'7", 6'8", really long, really lanky, but he has guard skills. And the big men that have offers, you have Steven Zimmerman out of California. You have Diamond Stone out of Wisconsin, Henry Ellison out of Wisconsin, and Ivan Rabb. And realistically, I think the only chance UNC has is for Ivan Rabb. He's been on campus. He's one of the top players in the class. All those guys are 5-star players, and they're all very good, talented, multidimensional big men. And they're just, it's hard to recruit California guys to come all the way across the coast, or Wisconsin guys to leave the state, because there's good programs in those states where they can go and play. And then, of course, you have other big-name schools going after them. But Ivan Rabb has been on campus. Roy has watched them play. Roy watched all these guys play this weekend. And I think they're really focusing in on him. And I think they're focusing in on PJ Dozier and Brandon Ingram. And I don't like to speculate about other guys. It is hard to follow all these other guys. Of course, Roy and the assistant coaches watched a lot of other 2015 recruits that do not have offers yet. And those names, they're all across the board. And you don't really know who the coaches are favoring. But those are guys that would get offers if these other guys fell through. The 2015 class, it's not looking as good as some other classes, just because there's not any big men on the East Coast, so they're going after some of these guys they used to have good relationships with, have kind of fallen off. So I think PJ Dozier will be a Tar Heel. He's been high on the heels the whole time. I think there's a good chance, not a great chance, I'd say less than 50% chance that Ivan Rabb becomes a Tar Heel. He's getting, he's being recruited by tons of other schools as well. And I think Brandon Ingram is going to come down to Duke and Carolina for him. And right now it's hard to tell who leads, but I would say if any team leads, it's UNC. But Duke and Kentucky have definitely made inroads with him. So that's what we're looking at right now. And if you look at the needs for Carolina, we need a big man, because all we have right now is Kennedy Meeks and Bryce Johnson. So we need another big man to come in next year, because you never know. Bryce Johnson could go pro after this year. Meeks, he probably won't go pro, but you never know with these guys. So we definitely need a big man in 2015 class, and taking another shooter, another scorer is definitely a position of need as well.
Yeah, what I was going to say, if we had a really good year, we've seen the mass exodus before with the Tar Heels, so it's scary to think if we don't have stuff ready to come in and fill those holes, what it could be like if guys like Meeks left. We do have Joel James back there, but needs to make a lot of improvement to be a starter, I would say, and even like a 20-30 minute a game guy.
Yeah.
So let's back up a little bit, just even from my own thinking. Anybody watching that does know who will we lose for sure? Graduating. I can't think of anybody off the top of my head right now. And how many scholarships do we have available for next year?
Yeah, so I think Desmond Hubert and
Oh,
Jackson Simmons are the two seniors. Is that right?
yeah, that does sound right. I
Yeah,
didn't
and I'm not sure the scholarship numbers. I know you can always work it out, but we're not going to take more than three or four. I don't think. I think you could see a two-person class, maybe a three-person class. Just depends on who leaves. I don't see anybody leaving early. People seem to think Page might leave after his junior year. I don't see that happening. I don't see Tokido leaving either. I mean, these guys are good, but they're not. I mean, they can stay another year and try to win a championship. And I always, as an optimistic former student and fan, you want to think that they're going to stay together and win a championship. I think not this year, so not the 2014-15 class, but the 2015-2016 year is the year where UNC has a legitimate shot at winning a championship. When Page and Tokido and Johnson are seniors, Meeks is a junior, and you have two more classes coming in. I think that's very realistic.
And well, I just lost my train of thought, but I was just thinking of like we're talking about, we never know who's going to leave early and stuff, and like you were saying, the Page talk of him leaving. It's hard to see his draft stock be able to drop low. I'm thinking of James Michael McAdoo, who probably should have left after his freshman year, and people always talk about Kendall Marshall shouldn't have, but if he would, he could have easily been in James Michael McAdoo's shoes if he would have stayed and didn't have the right fit there, and his draft stock drops. It's just hard to see like a Page's stock dropping so far like that, and he's such a small statured guy too that it's like hard to kind of see where he would fit really high in the draft anyways.
Yeah, and yeah, I mean, I think NBA scouts know what they have with Page. He's played so much as a freshman and sophomore. They know what they have. Like, even if his scoring went down next year, they just know that's because he's becoming more of a facilitator and has more scoring options. Right. Because he's not like a flash in the pan like McAdoo was his freshman year. And then you saw kind of, he wasn't as good as expected his sophomore and junior years.
Right, and and hopefully he doesn't score as much there. It means because we got others scoring around him. So
exactly.
Let's take a brief look. You were talking about that kind of 2 years down the road being possibly the year that we could contend or really go after a championship. What about recruiting? I know some of the big names in that class is like the Harry Giles out of the same school that Theo went to. And also the Seventh Woods kids. Are those kind of the biggest names we're after? Do we have any shot with those guys?
Yeah, I think so. 2016 class, the reason why there might not be as many scholarship offers out for the 2015 class is because the coaches are waiting for the 2016 class, where there's like 5 or 6 elite players or 4 or 5 elite players in the Carolinas. So like you said, you have Harry Giles, who's the #1 power forward, considered the #1 player in the country, right down the road in High Point, and he is Theo Pinson's teammate. You have Seventh Woods out of South Carolina, who's a kind of a combo guard, point guard, who is very talented, very skilled. And then beyond that, you have Dennis Smith Jr., who just got an offer a couple of weeks ago from Roy Williams, and he's out of Fayetteville. I did a piece on him. I talked to him 2 weeks ago. And he's really good. He's a point guard, maybe even better than Seventh Woods. And Duke offered him, and he's going to get a lot of big offers as well. But he's very good. There's an offer out to Jason Tatum out of St. Louis. He's a 6'7" shooting guard, probably one of the top 2 or 3 players in the country. I don't think the Heels have as much of a chance with him because Kansas is on him. You have the Midwest schools on him. Duke was on him early, but you never know. And then the last guy is this guy named Bam Adebayo out of Pinetown, North Carolina, which is on the eastern shore almost. And he's a 6'9", 6'10" power forward, very athletic, very big, kind of still developing as a player, but had a very impressive summer. So those are the 5 scholarship offers out. You have Giles, Woods, Smith, Tatum, and Adebayo. And, I mean, none of those guys I don't think UNC could get, or none of those guys are out of the question for UNC. I think Giles is a very realistic option. I think Woods is favored to become a Tar Heel, and Eddie Bio is also favored to become a Tar Heel. So those two guys, and then potentially a Smith Woods backcourt. And I actually wrote a piece on that today, where I think UNC is all in on recruiting Seventh Woods and Dennis Smith together and bring them in as a point guard, kind of combo guard combination there for the backcourt. They're both like, I think Dennis Smith's like 6'3", Seventh Woods is 6'1", but they're both very good, talented, can score anytime they want to. And just the kind of players in North Carolina in the 2016 class are very good, and it's exciting because you never know. There could be some package deals where Giles and Smith play together, or Giles and Woods decide to play together. So it's pretty exciting to think about it, but that's 2 years away. So it's kind of, fans get their hopes up, and then
fans like to get ahead of themselves, right?
Yeah, of course.
So, and you kind of answered there, but just to clarify, Smith is more of a pure point guard, whereas Smith is the combo scoring kind of guard, right?
Yeah, but Dennis Smith is a scoring guard too. None of those guys are like Kendall Marshall, where Kendall Marshall's a pass-first guy. Those guys are scorers. They're quick, they're fast, they can get to the basket, they can shoot. I just think that, I just think maybe Seventh Woods is more of a shooter and could play point shooting guard compared to Smith, who wants to play point guard, and that's his position. And the competition for these guys, you have all the big name schools coming after them, and it's going to come down to UNC and Duke for a lot of them. So we'll see what happens, but it's pretty exciting, and to think what could be for that 2016 class.
So I have a question here as we get into the questions, and not that I want to get into this too much, but John B here on Google Plus. It doesn't look like it's coming up on the screen, but it says, do you think the Rashad McCants saga will affect recruits from coming to UNC at all?
No, I don't think that's going to affect the basketball recruiting at all. I think the only thing that's coming out of that is just the academic scandal and the NCAA investigation that's affecting more football. If anybody watched that Rashad McCants stuff, it is what it is. I'm not gonna say that there are papers written for him, but I'm not gonna say there weren't. But he's making up a lot of stuff, and I don't think Roy Williams was in on it. I don't think it was this big scheme where Roy Williams is the mastermind of some big academic scandal. So I don't think there's much validity to what McCants is spouting right now.
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you. And I talked about this in the last podcast too. McCants is out there unknown with no support, kind of for a reason, and like you hit on is exactly how I feel. I was talking to somebody just Saturday or over the weekend about this. It's not what McCants said that worries me. It's the investigation that comes out of it, because I think just about any program, you look deep enough, you're going to find some kind of minor infraction or some kind of something going wrong in any program you look at. So that they're looking is what scares me, not that what McCants said at all.
Yeah, I think Roy runs a pretty tight ship. I think the basketball program's easier to control than the football program. You have 15, 12 guys. Right. So, and I think Carolina basketball's been run pretty close to the vest for years. So hopefully it works out well.
Right. So we've got a few more kind of questions here. I'll pull them up. Who do you think is the most athletic and / fastest of the three incoming freshmen?
Yeah, I think Theo Pinson is going to be the most athletic. He's going to be a guy who's going to be on breakaways, slamming down dunks. He's quick. He's big. Joel Berry is probably the fastest guy, the quick guard. But I think you'd be more impressed with what Theo Pinson brings offensively and defensively.
Yeah, and Berry has impressed me because he's kind of a different body type than what we brought in. He's a little bit more of a stockier point guard, whereas Page was slight. We've had the big guys that have been pretty skinny and slight for their positions. But Berry seems to almost be college ready with his body. Is that right?
Yeah, he's not like Page came in pretty lean and he was a little taller. Berry is 6 feet, 6'1" maybe, and yeah, he's developed into a pretty good body. So yeah, he's ready to play point guard for the Heels. Justin Jackson's the one guy who you kind of hope puts on some weight pretty soon.
Yeah, we got to have one or two of those every year. So on Twitter at jhardy575, we went through this already, but what do you think UNC recruiting class the top needs are. You said the big guy and a wing or shooting guard. So let's see here. We got a couple here. Here's a football one I missed. We'll go back. Who impressed you the most at the freak show?
Yeah, Juval Millette, I thought was the best wide receiver, just physically imposing, 6'4", fast, physical, the line of attack. Also, Aaron Crawford, who's a defensive tackle commit, he was strong. He was big. He's going to play the nose tackle, kind of the defensive tackle position there for the Tar Heels. He's out of Virginia, so Aaron Crawford's the guy to look out for. And Jalen Dalton, who is a recruit yet. He hasn't committed yet. He's a big dude. He's pretty raw right now, but he's fast, he's athletic, he's a defensive end. So those three guys really stood out. And there were hundreds of recruits there, so it was kind of hard to keep a lookout for every player, but those three stood out.
Let's see. That's what we just did. All right, here we go. I don't even know if you can answer this, but what was it like to watch Ty Lawson in person? Did you get to see him in person?
Yeah, I was there for his all three of his years, I think. Yeah, I was there for two out of his 3 years. Oh, God, it was so fast. I think one of the most exciting players to watch. When he would just get into the lane and take the contact and score, and he still does that in the NBA. He's just so quick, such a good first step. And when we developed that 3-point shot, it was unstoppable. I mean, he's the main reason the Tar Heels won in 2009. It wasn't Hansborough or Green or Deion
Ellington.
Ty Lawson was that team that year.
Yeah, and it's totally different seeing him in person than it is on TV. I was able to watch both Michigan State games the year that we won that. The one during the regular season at Ford Field, and then the Final Four and the championship in Ford Field. And for the Final Four and the championship, I was sitting literally in the second to last row of Ford Field in the building. But you can just see, I mean, he was kind of like we were just talking about, stockier point guard. He's short point guard, but just how quick he was, and like you were saying, the way he can get into the lane and finish after getting contact was just unheard of, especially in college. So here's another quick one. Well, this is kind of the same thing, but which Heels did you enjoy watching the most when you were there? Obviously, Lawson has to be in there.
Yeah, I was there for David Noel was fun to watch. Danny Green was always fun to watch. And Hansborough is just great. It's hard not to say him. He was just so good and so big, and he would just dominate. So those three guys are always fun. I'm trying to think on the 2005 team. Yeah, I mean, I enjoyed Felton. I'm a sucker for a good point guard, and that's who we've had when I was in school there. So I'd say Felton was a good guy to watch, and David Noel.
All right, so I know I definitely can't answer this one specifically, but it says, what did, well, both of us in this case, do when Danny Green dunked over Paulus? And I'm a pretty, my wife kind of gets on to me about being such a big North Carolina fan, and I'm kind of a level-headed person when I watch the games. I'm not jumping up and down too much. But this is definitely one that brought me out of my seat. I do remember that.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. That was what, 2000? Is that 2008?
Yeah, I'm gonna say the year. That's what I was thinking. The year before we won the championship.
Yeah, 2008. I think we were on spring break at that time. I'm not sure what I did. I remember watching it, and we were just winning by so much in that game. We just dominated. That was in the first half, I remember. Yeah, probably the same old, kind of jump out of the couch and high five your buddies. One of those celebrations.
Well, this is kind of a good way to end. Hopefully, I haven't missed any questions. But it says, how can anyone choose Duke over North Carolina? Chapel Hill is heaven. Of course, we would agree. I've kind of said before, one thing that Duke has, I think, that does play a big role in recruiting is Coach K being the coach of the USA team. I think that definitely influences guys when they look. He's coaching LeBron and coaching Melo and Kobe and all those guys. I think, rightfully or not, I think it does influence them.
Yeah, it's all big cycles. 1 year we'll have some good recruits and good players, and then some years they will. It's always a battle because they're right down the road, and we go after the same players and same level of coaching. So it is about developing the players once they're there and picking players that fit for the style of play that each team brings. So it's always good to have a rival. I think it brings out the best of both schools.
Well, there was another question that just came in, and I just wanted you to at least have a chance. I don't see it here to bring it up, but it said, besides football and hoops, and you can say, did or do you follow any other UNC teams while you were there? Or I don't think you write on any, do you?
No, we just do football and we do football and basketball. We have somebody who writes on some baseball stuff for us as well. But I'll follow UNC baseball if we're playing well at the end of the season in the tournament. I don't follow every game. And women's and men's soccer during the NCAA tournament, I'll watch women's and men's soccer for sure because we always do pretty well. So it's always fun to see them make runs in the tournament. And I had some friends play on the women's soccer team, which was fun to watch when I was there. So,
yeah, talk about a dynasty. The women's soccer team there is
exactly.
a dynasty forever.
Best dynasty in sports.
Yeah. All right, so I've taken up enough of Ross's time. I want to thank everybody for questions. That was great to get those questions come in. Before we leave, I just want to throw out, if you haven't already, to connect with me on Twitter. It's at AllTarHeelDan. On Google+, it's just Dan DeWitt. If there's anything you want covered on the podcast or questions you want to submit for future podcasts, anything like that, you can email me, UNCHoopsTalk@gmail.com. And if you watch this live or if you watch this later, definitely go give this video a thumbs up on YouTube and subscribe to the channel. It's youtube.com/UNCHoopsTalk. That's enough self-promotion, shameless self-promotion for me. Ross, throw out your Twitter, the email, or the website again. And again, I'll make sure that it all gets in the description of this video so people can easily check it out. But throw those out there one more time.
Yeah, it's on Twitter. It's at boss_Martin247. That's boss with a B. And then our website is CarolinaBlue.com, which is part of the 24/7 Sports Network. Check it out. We have tons of good stuff on there, beyond articles, a lot of good features, and it's a pretty exciting time to be part of the 24/7 Sports Network as we continue to grow and expand.
Absolutely. Definitely go check it out. Ross, thanks so much for being here. It was great. You're welcome back anytime that you want to come back. And until next time, go Heels.
Appreciate it, Dan. See ya.